Thank you. That's great. Ask him to sit down and everybody sits down. Welcome everyone to the 8th Annual Cesar Chavez Hispanic Excellence Awards. I'm Eva Aguirre Cooper from Wood TV8 and very honored to be your Mistress of Ceremonies tonight. Some of you have been asking me, and those of you who don't want to hear may cover your ears, but I have an update on the Tigers-Yankees game. It's 6-1 Tigers. So, I know many of you are thinking you're not home to watch them, you're here, but you know, you'll get to see them in the World Series, okay? All right. We'd like to begin now. We'll be beginning with the presentation of colors from Union High School's ROTC program, followed by Dr. Rayanne Booker of Davenport University with the national anthem. Please stand.
Please join me in singing the U.S. National Anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Thank you. You may be seated. Well, you just never know what to expect. It's like live TV, right? That's awesome. And now I have the pleasure of introducing a woman that we all know and love. Chairperson for the Committee to Honor Cesar E. Chávez and the glue that keeps us all together, Lupe Ramos Montini.
Good evening. Buenas noches. I cannot tell you how excited I am to see each and every one of you here this evening. In behalf of the Committee to Honor Cesar E. Chávez, and now together with the Unity Committee, We want to welcome you to our 2012 Cesar E. Chavez Excellence Scholarship and Awards Banquet. We are thrilled and honored to also be welcoming nuestro hermano, our brother, Paul Chavez, son of a hero, Cesar E. Chavez. As I just said, and the Unity Committee. So I would like to introduce to you the Unity Committee. And I need a program, please. Thank you. The Unity Committee was formed in January 2012. And it's a group of universities and colleges and institutions, and we work together to bring more opportunities for students that want to seek higher learning. And so I want to introduce to you our first table, and that's Aquinas College. Will you stand up, please, and remain standing? Davenport University, Ferris State University, Grand Rapids Public Schools, GRCC, Grand Rapids Community College, Dale from the Grand Rapids Public Museum, Western Michigan University, and who did I forget? And the Mighty Mouse, Grand Rapids, Grand Valley State University. These are the members of the Unity Committee. So now we start our gala. When we had the first gala, it was just a small group of people. Remember that the Committee to Honor Cesar E. Chavez, we are a group of volunteers, and we're fortunate that Grand Rapids Community College acts as our fiduciary and takes care of all of our money. And so with having said that, look at what we have done this evening. We have truly multiplied the number of people that we started out with. So to me, that's determination and that's progress. So I want to leave you with this word. Our great leader, Cesar E. Chavez, said, we cannot have a perfect system, but we must have perfect participation. So November the 6th is a time to go and cast our vote for whomever we want to serve in the different positions. So exercise and empower yourselves and empower the one next to you. So thank you very, very much for being here with us, and now it's time to celebrate.
Gracias, Lupe. And now we invite Pastor Roberto Clusay of Maranatha Spanish Seventh-day Adventist Church for our reflection.
Gracias, Eva. Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches para todos. I remember that Lupe told me, just 5 minutes, Pastor. Since I'm a Hispanic preacher, I think that was a very challenging invitation. But here we are, celebrating the memory, the life, and the contributions of Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez, a Mexican-American farm worker, a labor leader, and a civil rights activist who was eager to enroll Hispanic workers into the then National Farms Worker Association to defend their rights. And at this point, I decided to open the Bible because I found there something very good to remember Cesar Chavez. Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe him and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? These words are not coming from the gospel, are coming from Isaiah. And I was reading chapter 58, verses 6 and 7. It's a bit startling to realize that Isaiah 58 was written to a people who, not unlike you and me, that doesn't fall to them for their rights belief, that he has a heartful to say to them about their lack of right behavior, particularly as these verses that I read carefully notes. When it comes to their treatment of the poor and the suffering. So how is the conviction and practice balance with the Christians today? Does God still have issues with people who champion the truth but nothing more? Go online sometime and Google poverty or food insecurity, which is the government nomenclature for hunger. Can you believe the numbers? In a nation that boasts such affluence, even though it's a little diminished nowadays, the tragic divide between the haves and the haves not is frightful at best and downright obscene at worst. But do the believers care? We care? Don't ask, does God care? Isaiah 58 is his passionate rejoinder. In fact, the very categories of human need outlined in these verses were co-opted by Jesus in his last story on earth. Food, shelter, clothing, the very essentials for survival and what 1 in 8 Americans struggles to hand on to our checklist in both the Isaiah 58 and Jesus' sheep and goats parable. What's the big deal? Thinking back to the parable and the startling fact that the final judgment will be based on our response or lack of it to the poor and suffering, it becomes evident nothing cuts more quickly or deeply to the core of human selfishness, or unselfishness, if you will, than what we do for those in need. If there is a more visible barometer of my heart than my response to the needs of the poor around me, no wonder Jesus told the rich young ruler to sell everything he had and give it to the poor. He had convictions down pat, but he failed the final exam on practice. He thought he was chosen, but his choice showed otherwise. So I'm going to read the gospel now. In Matthew 25, 34 and on. I'm reading, "Then the king will say to those on his right hand, 'Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me, and I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? Or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in? Or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. Knowing that the Hispanic community facing this challenging crisis, economical crisis, we're diminishing their capacity to buy goods in a 66%. They are seeing their kids, the Hispanic children, who are now representing the majority of the children of this nation under the poverty level. So they are the least of these brethren right now. So let's help them. As Cesar Chavez did, we must do. There is somebody who say amen. Thank you. We need to take this task in our hands, following the example and the inspiration of Cesar Chavez tonight. I invite all of you to participate with me in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you, dear Lord, for this opportunity to take responsibility and conscience about our Hispanic community in this nation. They need help. They want to go forward and to have equal opportunities. So following your teachings, coming from the Bible, the Old and the New part, we are accepting the opportunity and the privilege to represent you, helping them to be, they themselves, a real contribution to this nation and its greatness. Together, tonight, we are celebrating a life of inspiration and strength, looking forward for something better coming from heaven on earth. And at the same time, we are requesting your blessing to every one of us and the food we are going to share. In the name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Gracias, Pastor Clusay. Now please join me and enjoy your dinner, your camaraderie, and we'll be back with the program shortly. Thank you. Good. Okay, we are going to resume the program. You can continue eating if you like. But I do have some great news. 8-1 Tigers! Woo! All right. I just had to say that. Okay, I hope you've all enjoyed your dinner. This was a wonderful meal, wouldn't you say? I also have here a set of keys that I believe I was told was left in the men's room. Not that I went in there to check, but it was, so if somebody's missing a set of, back there, okay, I'll hang on to them for you up here. So now that we've all gathered our coffee and ready to enjoy the dessert on the table, I'm going to get ready to introduce somebody to come up here now. I'd like to begin the program to introduce our keynote speaker. Aquí te va. Tigers, mírenlo. Yeah. Here to introduce the keynote speaker is someone I know we all call friend and I call mentor. Please welcome President of Aquinas College, Juan Olivares.
Good evening, everyone. What a great night, another celebration of so many years of celebrating Cesar Chavez and our wonderful students at our schools. We started this morning with a wonderful breakfast with Paul, and I'm glad he's still here and still standing and moving through our city. He's had a great day. It is my honor and privilege to introduce to you tonight this distinguished keynote speaker, Paul F. Chavez, the president and chairman of the National Cesar Chavez Foundation, located in the great state of California. Since 1991, Paul Chavez has led the Cesar Chavez Foundation, an organization his father founded in the 1960s. Paul is the middle son of the late Cesar Chavez. Prior to leading the foundation, he worked with the United Farm Workers, and there his responsibilities included organizing workers, labor negotiations, managing the union's direct marketing operation, serving as the UFW's political director and lobbyist in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. He also served as personal assistant to his father, union leader Cesar Chavez. Paul Chavez earned an associate degree in negotiations and collective bargaining from the Fred W. Ross Labor Education Center. His foundation responsibilities today include strategic and operational planning, budgeting, results management, and board and government relations. To manage this multifaceted and ambitious Cesar Chavez Foundation agenda, he also oversees the development and direction of top management and support personnel. Paul spearheaded the impressive growth of the Cesar Chavez Foundation in key areas that has dramatically impacted the lives of farm workers, Latinos, and other working families. The Cesar Chavez Foundation staff has quadrupled to more than 150 employees. Coupled with its programs and services, this represents a social investment of more than $175 million. He is a dedicated leader who has enriched and improved the lives of farm workers and Latino families. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Paul F. Chavez.
Thank you, Dr. Olivares. On behalf of my mother, Helen, my brothers and sisters, the Chavez Foundation, and the entire farm worker movement, we want to thank you for letting us be part of tonight's great event. You know, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the committee that honors Cesar Chavez and its chairperson, Lupe Ramos, who has done a tremendous job. Lupe, I want to thank you very much. You know, we could talk about the success of tonight's dinner, but if you actually look at her at her support for my father's work and the ongoing work. It goes back many decades. And so, Lupe, I want to thank you for always being there to open your heart and your hard work to support the farm worker cause. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'd also like to thank members of the Unity Committee for their support in tonight's function, but also for all the good work that you do in the community. And also, I'd be remiss if we didn't recognize and thank all of the volunteers that have worked so hard to make tonight's event a success. So un aplauso para los voluntarios. You know, 50 years ago, my father gave up the best paying job he ever had. He had worked in the fields growing up, and like most farm workers, their goal was to get out of the fields and make sure that their kids never worked in the fields. And my father was well on the way to becoming a middle-class Hispanic in Southern California. He was the organizing director for the Community Services Organization that during that time it was one of the most active Latino advocacy groups in Southern California. They registered 500,000 voters and elected the first city councilman in Los Angeles, in the modern history of Los Angeles, and they fought cases of police brutality, and they helped people with everyday problems. And so he was helping people, but also he was living a really comfortable life. But, you know, I was telling folks earlier is that he could never get rid of that little burning thing inside of him that really required that he go back to where he started to settle a score. You know, he talked about this score that he felt he needed to settle with agribusiness. And so what he did was he moved my mother and 8 small children to the dusty little farm town of Delano, California, where he gave up the only security, the only material security he ever had, and he began doing what many others with a lot more resources, a lot more education had tried and failed to do over 100 years. And that was to organize a successful union for farm workers. You know, my father ended that first leg of that long organizing journey in 1962, pulling in front of his little 2-bedroom house in Kensington Street in Delano. During that 90-day period when he first started, he drove over 15,000 miles up and down the Central Valley of California. During that time, he picked peas and he picked grapes, and he did whatever he could do to get gas money to put in the car to be able to talk to workers. Also, during that time, he spoke to more than 3,000 farm workers, and he spoke to them in the fields. He spoke to them on the side of dusty roads and in their homes in one farm worker community after another. And through his perseverance, 6 months later, 200 farm workers from dozens of little towns in the Central Valley of California gathered at this abandoned movie theater in Fresno, California, to call what they had the audacity to call the National Farm Workers Association. It would later become known as the United Farm Workers of America. And you know, much has been said about those early days, but by the mid-60s, those baby steps that he took those first months in 1962 became the Delano Grape Strike. It was the longest continuing strike, successful strike in the history of American agriculture. And you know, our family was like many other families. We suffered and we persevered through those really difficult times. And the workers that lived through it were transformed. Their lives were never the same. They learned to do things that they never imagined that they would do, like the agony of getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning after a couple of hours of sleep to meet with the strike captains, to be manning the picket lines at 5 o'clock in the morning before the strike breakers came in. Or, you know, manning picket lines and having trucks bring in strike breakers to take their jobs and encouraging them all day long to join the strike. Many of them were arrested for the first time in their lives, and they were arrested for civil disobedience when they disobeyed unconstitutional injunctions that prohibited picketing. Many were beaten and clubbed by grower goons and rural police that didn't like the idea that farm workers were standing up for their rights. And finally, many of them moved from the picket lines in the rural parts of the state of California to supermarkets in cities, in front of supermarkets in cities all across North America in places like Grand Rapids. And they came here to urge people from all walks of life, from unions, from churches and colleges, to stop buying grapes. And eventually, they got over 15 million people to support a boycott. And, you know, again, that spoke about this tremendous faith that he had. You know, that my father thought that he could, as a young man, that he could give up the security that the only security that he ever had, and he could take on the biggest and most powerful industry in California and win. He also believed that if farm workers went to urban areas and talked to the consuming public about their problems, he believed that the American consuming public would respond in kind and boycott grapes. And so it speaks about the tremendous faith he had in the good will and the ability of all of us to rise up and to meet those challenges that confront us. You know, my father's work was really different from the very beginning. When he began the work to build the union, he had done a lot of research, and he understood that things had to be differently. And he had a very clear vision of what his work would be, what his movement would be. You know, my dad and Dolores, they were organizers for the Community Services Organization, and they'd actually studied every attempt to organize farm workers in the previous 100 years. And they knew that if the fight remained a local fight in rural areas, in rural parts of the states, we would lose. But also, I think one of the genius of that research was that they were convinced, they understood that farm workers just aren't farm workers. They understood from their own experience about the terrible working conditions and the backbreaking hours and the miserable pay at work. But they also understood that when workers went home at night, they went home as parents and consumers to a whole different set of problems. They knew that they were also parents who were concerned about decent and affordable housing. They were consumers who desperately needed access to consumer credit, and they were parents that were concerned about the educational opportunities for their children. And so they knew that it would take more than a union, it would take a movement to address the needs at the workplace and in the community. And so, you know, years before the first organizing campaign, before the first strike, before the first bargaining session with an employer, this young organization was out there providing a death benefit program to buried loved ones with dignity. We had the Farm Workers Credit Union, the first credit union for farm workers in the history of this country, that provided basic consumer credit to farm workers that couldn't get credits from traditional lending sources, and many times were forced to go to those organizations that charged 20 and 25% interest rates. And also there was the cooperative gas station. You know, I mentioned that because a couple of days ago I was with some people from the National Park Service, and I was showing them some of the old buildings, and I was showing them the first structure that was built. It was a gas station, a cooperative gas station. Now, you know, you may ask, well, what does a cooperative gas station have to do with organizing farm workers? And directly, maybe not too much, but when you see your job as addressing the needs that people have, it had everything to do with it. They knew that farm workers' livelihoods depended on their ability to drive to work, many times 60, 70 miles one way, to provide for their families. And so access to cheap gas, right, was a big issue. But more importantly, they had to keep their old broken down cars up and running, because if not, they couldn't provide for their families. And so what they did was they built a gas station that had 3 bays, and they hired a mechanic, and members could come in and fix their cars so that they could provide for their families. And so when you think about this decision to do things differently, it's a good example of how it was done. And so, you know, the work went on, and during these past 50 years, you know, we're proud of the many changes that have taken place in farm workers' lives. But I think that in the process of doing our work, the farm worker movement has inspired millions of Hispanics and other people who never set foot on a farm, inspired them to get involved in the social and the political activities of their own communities. It's amazing how many people I've spoken to today that can trace their social activism to walking those first picket lines and boycotting grapes and lettuce. Today, the UFW, the United Farm Workers, continues to fight every day to make progress, and they fight against tremendous odds. There's tremendous resistance from employers. The changing agricultural industry has put pressure that we never would imagine on agriculture. And they do this on a daily basis to bring about genuine change that my father fought for in the fields, but also in the legislative halls. The union continues organizing, winning contracts, also fighting for legislative change to protect the rights of farm workers, like getting a heat protection law. You know, one of the big problems we have in agriculture is you have workers working in really difficult conditions under the hot sun. And it took legislation that was passed a couple of years ago to finally force employers to put up shade and cool drinking water, so that when a worker felt a little lightheaded, they could take time off of work, not be fired, get a little bit of rest under the shade and drink some water. And all this comes as a result of the efforts of the UFW, but it wouldn't have been possible had it not been for the support of many of you here in this room. And so the work continues at the workplace. But in the meantime, or in the meanwhile, the other arm of the farm worker movement, the Cesar Chavez Foundation, where I work on a full-time basis, we continue to push for social change in the community. And we do so by providing services to hundreds of thousands of farm workers, Hispanics, and seniors in a 5-state region. Tens of thousands of families and seniors across 4 states live in high-quality, affordable housing that is developed and maintained by the Cesar Chavez Foundation. Also, 500,000 daily listeners tune in to 9 stations in 3 states, listening to the educational and the informative programming of Radio Campesina. It's a radio station that was founded by my father, and it speaks to the hopes and the aspirations of farm workers and immigrants. Now, when we do our programming, we just don't talk about what's ailing the community, because people have a pretty good idea of what that is. What it is there's always a call to action. And that was, if there was a lesson to learn from my father, was that there has to be action. Things don't change unless people get involved. And so Radio Campesina will speak to 500,000 people on a daily basis, calling them to action. Also, the area of educational equality is a big important issue for us. We have contracts with over 50 school districts throughout California and Arizona, where we provide after-school tutoring to farm worker children and other children of color. You know, we've seen the statistics, and we know that if a child can't read or write at grade level, by the time they leave the 3rd grade, they fall behind. They can't keep up. And we've also seen that statistic that if kids have not taken and passed algebra by the time they leave middle school, they just don't go to college. There's a direct correlation between that. And so in an effort to address that issue, this Chavez Foundation has made a commitment to make education a priority area in this next coming decades. And then finally, there's the work that happens at the National Chavez Center in Keene, where I live and work out of. There we have a visitor center where people can come and pay their respects and learn about my father's life and work and visit the site that he's buried in. We also have an educational center where activists can come and learn to plan, and they can train at our facility so that they can go back and help their communities. And all of this is done in the shadow of my father's legacy at the place that he lived and worked for the last 23 years of his life. But in addition to the ongoing work of the foundation, my father's legacy continues to be honored in many ways, like tonight's events, where people will be awarded for community service, and scholarships will be issued to deserving young students. It's a tremendous way to honor his legacy. But also, in addition to what's happening here tonight, there's hundreds of communities across the nation that have named public places in his memory, and they celebrate official holidays and remembrances that celebrate his life and his work. On my father's birthday, just this past March 31st, I met Lupe, and we joined with the delegation from Grand Rapids and 10,000 folks from San Antonio, where they celebrated the renaming of Durango Street to Cesar Chavez Boulevard that runs through the heart of San Antonio, a place that has always been key in the struggle for farm worker rights. This last Cinco de Mayo in San Diego, California, We joined the United States Navy, where it christened and launched its newest non-combatant cargo ship, the USNS Cesar Chavez, the first naval vessel to be named after a Hispanic in the history of this country. You know, I was talking to people throughout the years. There's been a lot of discussions about a major motion picture depicting my father's life and work, and so I'm proud to announce that by early part of next year, there should be a new movie out on the big screen. It'll be directed by Diego Luna, and Michael Peña will be playing the role of Cesar Chavez, and Rosario Dawson will be playing Dolores Huerta, and America Ferrera will be playing Helen Chavez, and John Malkovich will be playing the bad guy. And so anyways, and so we expect that this will be out, and maybe we can do a premiere here in Grand Rapids. And so the commemorations come in different forms. But you know, in 1971, my father moved the movement's headquarters from Delano to the small community in the foothills of the southern Sierra Nevadas, to a place that he called Nuestra Señora Reina de la Paz, Our Lady Queen of Peace, or La Paz for short. And you know, La Paz was a special place to my father. It was 187 acres, and it was a place that he could go to plan and strategize and give direction to a growing movement, and a place that growing movement could train future generations of leaders in the farm worker movement and help other organizations develop their own folks. La Paz was also that place that the long and hard and grueling work of running a movement happened at. Thousands of selfless men and women flowed through La Paz for decades to labor for social justice. But while it was all that, it was something much more. You see, my dad's life was full of conflict and struggle. When he left La Paz, he was going to a picket line, he was going to a strike, there's a demonstration. And he knew that he needed a place that he could pull back from the fray, and that he could prepare himself for the next campaign, but more importantly, a place that offered him a spiritual harbor to recharge those spiritual batteries, and that's what La Paz was for him. And so we were proud to have, this 10 days ago, have President Obama join us in La Paz, along with 7,000 people, where he dedicated a portion of La Paz as a national monument. It's the 398th unit of the National Park Service that has been commemorated there in La Paz, that will honor my father's life, his work, and his vision. And so we're very happy that portion we're very happy that portion of his life and work will be told through the good work of the National Park Service, and hopefully it will be told for many generations to come. And you know, Lupe has been saying that she's going to join us, and I want to extend a warm invitation to all of you here to join us out in Keene, California. So the next time you're in California, please come and visit the new Cesar E. Chavez National Monument. We would love to see you there. You know, in ending, you know, I've been asked today, what would your father think about all of this, these honors and commemorations? And the fact of the matter is that my father was always really uncomfortable with being singled out for recognition. You know, he rarely accepted any type of personal awards, and I don't think he ever allowed anybody to name anything after him. And I think it was because he knew that there were many Cesar Chavezes, countless men and women who made great sacrifices and did so against tremendous odds, and whose names are now largely lost to history. My dad was always saying that the job of an organizer is to help ordinary people do extraordinary things. And the fact is that he really believed that everybody was important, regardless of your station of life. He believed that everybody had a contribution to make. And I think that by him helping farm workers believe in themselves, he convinced them that they could challenge and overcome California's most richest and powerful industry. And I think that lesson was not lost on the rest of this great country. If it could happen in the rural parts of Delano, with the least educated and the poorest among us taking on the most powerful industry, If it could happen in California, it could happen everywhere. And so I think that and so, you know, in the 50 years since that time that those 200 valiant farm workers had the courage to dare and believe in themselves, you know, the burden of carrying on my father's work on a daily basis, you know, it's a responsibility of those that have dedicated ourselves to that work. But I think that each and every one of us here tonight, we have a duty to preserve his legacy. And the way that we do that is by working for a more just and peaceful world in the fields and in your communities. And if you do that, then my father's legacy will burn brightly for many years to come. Thank you all very much, and sí se puede.
Gracias, Paul. That, you know, as you were talking, I think my first memory with my mom in Detroit, I don't know if I was 5 or 6, we went to the grocery store, I thought, but we went to Pickett, and we were boycotting grapes, and I just remember growing up with that. It was just a memory of that and learning more and more about your father. I feel like you really carry that spirit of what he was trying to share with all of us, and it's just such a great honor to have you here this evening and carry on the tradition, because you're right, there's a little bit of Cesar Chavez in all of us. Gracias. Yes, yes. And now we'll move on to the rest of the program. And you know, a night like tonight, is this not a beautiful room? I'm just in awe. Lupe, this has just turned out wonderful. And part of that is because we really need to thank the sponsors, many of you that are here this evening. So if you just take a moment, I know it's in your programs, but I want to thank the Aguila sponsors, that's AT&T and GRPS My Choice. Also the Diamond sponsors, Fifth Third Bank, State Farm Insurance. The Emerald sponsors, Grand Rapids Education Association, McDonald's USA LTD, Teamsters Local 406, and the UAW Region 1D. Sapphire sponsors, Aquinas College, Davenport University, Ferris State University, Grand Rapids Community College, Grand Valley State University, Kent County Democratic Party, and Sanchez Income Tax and Translation Service. And also our Amigo sponsors, Chemical Bank, Miller Johnson, Wood TV8. And special thanks to the Bob and Alicia Woodruck Diversity Learning Centers, Ginkgo Studios Florist, Take 5 WZZM, Eddie Record Producer. So again, thank all our sponsors. Really appreciate your support for an evening like this. Gracias. And at this time, I'd like to ask if we have any elected officials in our audience, please stand. All our elected officials, please stand. We'd like to see who's here this evening. We appreciate your support as well. Elected officials, thank you so much for your participation. And are there any candidates here who hope to be elected? Any future, anybody running? Any candidates in the audience right now? Please stand. Okay. Thank you. Good luck. It's coming, I know, Election Day. And I know we have here some municipal representatives, administrators, city, county, state. If you're here, please stand. I know you're here. I see some of you right over here. Stand, please. And, okay. Okay. So this is my last call. If you didn't get your business card, you can run up here right now, and then we're going to get into the awards. We'll be raffling that off in just a little bit. Okay, we're going to move on now to the presentation of our community awards. We'll begin with the Youth Award. The 2012 Youth Award recipient was born in Zacatecas, Mexico. When he was 11 years old, his parents brought him to the United States seeking the American dream. After arriving in Michigan, he began attending the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Holland. In middle school, he was part of their leadership program, the Torch Club. His participation in leadership programs with the Boys and Girls Club continued in high school when he joined Keystone, which focused on making the club a better place to be and helping the community. While in high school, he was a math tutor primarily to second language learners. In 2010, he graduated with honors from Holland High School. He was a profound musical talent playing the piano and is asked to play by many churches. Later tonight, you will hear one of the selections he composed entitled The Love of My Mother. He is also part of the LGBT group and Holland is Ready. Currently, he serves in the Action Dream Team, a national organization dedicated to comprehensive immigration reform. When the Pisaña family came to America, they were not properly documented. Consequently, in 2011, his father was deported to Mexico, and earlier this year, his older brother was also deported. His mother and younger siblings returned to Mexico to join his father and brother. For now, he is living in Michigan, the place he considers his home, without his mother, without his father, and without his siblings. He has applied for deferred action for childhood arrivals, and he hopes soon he will be granted a work permit. He loves to share his story about being an undocumented gay Hispanic. However, doing so puts him at risk of being reported to ICE and facing deportation. Despite the fact that his employment prospects are minimal and that he is unable to drive, he lives with the hope that he can be granted a work permit and go on to college to study music and to continue to make his community and his country a better place. The 2012 Youth Award goes to Sigifredo Pisaña Hernandez, better known as Siggy. Congratulations. The 2012 La Familia Legacy Award recipients have learned over the years to integrate their two cultures successfully and always instill the importance of speaking Spanish to their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. The father was born in Rio Frio, Texas. His wife is from Gurabo, Puerto Rico. The couple met in Grand Rapids and married in 1962. This past June, they celebrated their golden anniversary. Together, they raised 4 children, Samuel, Ana, Noemi, and Ruth. They also have 5 grandchildren. Felipe migrated to Michigan as a farm worker when he joined members of his family who had made Grand Rapids their home. He then was a baker at Pollyanna Bakery and then landed at General Motors, where he retired in 1999. Leah worked tirelessly to finish her undergraduate degree at Grand Valley State University, while at the same time working at the Grand Rapids Public Schools and raising 4 children. Leah went on to complete her graduate work at Wayne State University, where she received her master's degree in education. All 4 children graduated from Grand Rapids Central High School. Sam has more than 20 years' experience as a professional auto body technician. Ana is a real estate agent. Noemi is a public school teacher, and Ruth, most recently, was a publisher of children's picture books. Leah and Felipe raised their family with values that mirror those of Cesar Chavez, because they were raised by parents who held values based on justice and service to others. Though their path to Grand Rapids was different, they both came from a faith-based upbringing that taught them the sense of justice and love of family and community. The family believes that the values that drove Cesar Chavez in this work are those that guide their family's service. Their work in the church, the community, and their family resonate the values with those of the Latino community's most beloved and iconic leader. They do not know all the names and faces of those impacted by their service, but that does not stop them from serving. They will continue their work and seek nothing in return. They are justice seekers who live by the words of the Bible and who day to day seek for others the blessings that have been bestowed upon each of them. The 2012 La Familia Legacy Award goes to Felipe and Leah Tovar, Martinez family, Samuel, Ana, Noemi, Ruth, and Samara. Get in there, get in there. We're taking a picture. Family picture, there you go. Felicidades, it's nice to see you guys back again. Hi. The 2012 Golden Citizen Award recipient was born into poverty in San Juan, Texas, and orphaned at the age of 12. Her grandmother raised her until she married Pablo at the age of 16. They, along with their 7 children, came to Grand Rapids, Michigan as migrant farm workers. They worked on many farms in the Grand Rapids and Traverse City areas. She was a foster parent for 17 years. After raising her 7 children, she and her husband were foster parents. They adopted a baby that they had fostered. Manuel attended Potter's House Christian School where she volunteered. She has devoted her life to helping those in need by volunteering in such places as St. Joseph the Worker, the United Community Ministries Food Pantries, and Roosevelt Neighborhood Association. To this day, people come to her when they are in need of food, a place to stay, or they need clothing. In the 1970s, during the grape and lettuce boycotts, she participated in many protests, marches, including a march from Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids. In 1973, she hosted Richard Chavez, the brother of Cesar Chavez, in her home. The following year, Cesar Chavez also stayed in her home. They became good friends in the name of social justice. 2 years following that visit, she met with Cesar in California, where she gave him a quilt that she had made. When Cesar died, he was found covered with the quilt that she had given him. As a child, Lucia suffered, but it did not break her spirit. At an early age, she found that her purpose was helping others in need and helping to keep the community strong. The 2012 Golden Citizen Award goes to Lucia H. Martinez.
Thank you.
Felicidades. Okay. Sigue haciendo esto, dice. Okay, bravo. When the 2012 Hispanic Advocate Award recipient was hired at Grand Rapids Community College in 2003, he confessed that the only Hispanics he knew were the ones that harvested the crop in Ionia County. He went on to say that Grand Rapids opened his eyes because the president of the college at the time, Dr. Juan Olivares, was Hispanic. As the Associate Vice President for College Advancement and Executive Director for Grand Rapids Community College Foundation, the committee to honor Cesar E. Chavez was able to formulate a rewarding relationship around the mutual mission to advance the education goals of Hispanic students pursuing a college education. In January of 2012, the Cesar E. Chavez Unity Committee was formed. He helped to organize the group in order to keep the work moving forward. He was instrumental in the implementation of the Hispanic Excellence and Scholarship Gala, the Social Justice March, the Cinco de Mayo events over the past 7 years. His strong commitment met the many responsibilities that promoted the life and legacy of Cesar E. Chavez. He became a committee leader, raising the awareness of our mission and taking responsibility seriously. There was nothing that was asked of him that he did not produce, making every event the best one yet. He served as a mentor at Ottawa Hills High School through the Strive mentoring program. For the past 4 years, he served as member of the Center for Community Leadership Council and was part of the Executive Council as the program committee chair. He has been actively engaged in the community, helping students increase their readiness for post-secondary education, coaching Special Olympians, and developing future community leaders. In 2012, the committee to honor Cesar E. Chavez felt he had come full circle. He was an active part of the committee and accepted the Hispanic culture as his own. We know he will do bigger things at Ivy Community College in Indiana because of the impact and experience he had as a mentor of our community. We found him to be dedicated, gentle, and a team builder. The committee will truly miss him. Ivy Community College is certainly getting an individual relentlessly committed to service to others. The 2012 Hispanic Advocate Award goes to Dr. Andrew Bound, better known as Andy. Now we have two Aguila Awards. The first 2012 Distinguished Aguila Award recipient was born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan. She came from a family of 6 sisters and 1 brother and has been happily married to Ray for 33 years. They have 2 children, Tomas and Javier, and 1 grandson, Noah. She has devoted her adult life to helping students who experience severe social problems. Students like Alejandro, who was able to turn his life around. At a very early age, Alejandro lost his mother and father. This led him to get involved with gangs, drugs, and other unacceptable behaviors. Josie was determined to help this 7th grader by mentoring him and showing him respect and dignity. She adopted Alejandro into her family from Bethany Christian Services. Also the case of Norma and Gloria. After the passing of their father and their mother moving to Texas, she took them into her home so they could complete their high school education. Norma is now a teacher, and Gloria is a business administrator in San Antonio. In 1988, she founded Grupo Tarasco, a Mexican folkloric dance group. Her objective was to retain students by highlighting their cultural background through dance. The objective has been met. The students' involvement in the group has enhanced their self-esteem to become good students, role models, and leaders in their respective schools. Above all, they have been academically successful. She had the privilege of joining Cesar E. Chavez during a march to boycott grapes from Grand Valley State University to what was then the Latin American Council on Granville Avenue. In 2010, she retired from Grand Rapids Public Schools after devoting 37 years as a bilingual paraprofessional. She demonstrated successful leadership in the greater Grand Rapids community and was recognized in 2009 as a leader and mentor to young Hispanic families. Please join me in presenting the first 2012 Distinguished Aguila Award to Josie Cedillo Guillen. Yay!
That's my grandson saying.
She said that was a shout out from the grandson. All right. The second 2000 Distinguished Aguila Award was born in Holland and is one of 3 sons of Mexican migrant farm workers. He has 2 sons who are currently enrolled in college. He graduated from West Ottawa High School, where he participated in the Hope College Upward Bound program. He is a graduate of Grand Valley State University. While at GVSU, he studied in Mexico and served as a teacher's aide in the migrant program during the summer months. In the 1980s, he created and chaired the Hispanic Professionals Network. He has served on the Hispanic Board and served as past board chair. He worked with other advocates to designate Granville Avenue as Cesar Chavez Boulevard. He was instrumental in developing the Cinco de Mayo event, including the Social Justice March here in Grand Rapids. During his 33-year educational career, he also served as a juvenile court volunteer probation officer. One case involving a domestic dispute, the mother of a high school senior killed his father, and she was sent to prison. The student, we'll call Chris, was emotionally distraught and full of anger, firebombed the sheriff's office. The court felt Chris could be rescued and was assigned to Ed through a probation mentoring program. Ed cultivated the relationship and helped the youth to finally share his thoughts and feelings of anger, anxiety, and hopelessness. Ed cultivated the relationship with outings and conversations involving respect for life, nonviolence, tolerance, self-esteem, and the importance of pursuing a college education. Ed earned the student's trust. Taking some personal time off his own job, Ed toured him around his alma mater, Grand Valley State University. Chris's eyes welled up with tears as they sat outside an academic building and stated that Ed was the first one to ever believe in him and help him to believe in himself. After 2 years, the mentoring relationship ended. 4 years later, Ed heard a knock on the door. It was Chris. He entered Ed's home and proudly showed him his 4-year college diploma. He broke down in tears and thanked Ed for helping to turn his life around and get into college. Ed congratulated Chris and simply said, "I appreciate you thanking me, but I simply planted a seed. If you are truly appreciative, all you need to do is to help others in need, and you will have given back what you have received." The second 2012 Distinguished Aguila Award goes to Ed Sosa. Hold on, Siggy, hold on. You hear him in the background, but I just want to say that the committee to honor Cesar E. Chavez adopted the plight of the DREAM Act students as the 2012 initiative to support and work for it. So tonight, Siggy in the back here, hang on, will testify through his music why the immigration reform bill must be a reality for 2 million dreamers throughout our country. Take it away, Siggy. Great job. Thank you, Siggy. You know, we would be remiss if we did not comment on the significance, the impact that this year's drought had on our migrant workforce, many of whom were dismissed early due to the short harvest. Their livelihood and that of their families were seriously affected. Compañeros, we stand with you. You are in our thoughts. Cesar Chavez once said, "It's not about lettuce and grapes, it's about people." And tonight, it's not just about the beautiful music and the delicious food, it's also about the people. In particular, 6 outstanding young individuals who have overcome their personal obstacles and who have gone on to distinguish themselves in academic careers. The stories of these exceptional persons show strength and determination. Many hardships awaited these individuals as they struggled to educate themselves. Some spoke little or no English when they arrived in the United States. All are products of the public or home education system and permanent fixtures in honor rolls and dean's lists. Several have become the first in their families to attend college. As a group, they juggle family, work, school, and volunteer responsibilities. Each of them share the character traits of perseverance, intellectual curiosity, willingness to work hard, strong motivation to succeed, and beautiful generosity of spirit, and in an exemplary way honor the scholarship namesake. It is our very great pleasure tonight to introduce you to these 6 outstanding scholarship recipients. I'd like to invite now to do the presentations first from AT&T. Ruth Goddard is here to present. Ruth?
I am very proud tonight to represent AT&T as we come together at an event that gets bigger and better every year to honor and celebrate the legacy of Cesar Chavez, excellence and achievement. I'm especially excited to honor the scholarship winners as AT&T certainly recognizes and supports the importance of educational success and workforce readiness for the leaders of tomorrow. Nancy Alvarez was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, where she attended high school. She came to the United States 5 years ago and spoke no English at that time. She started learning English at GRCC's Westside Learning Corner, and in the summer of 2011, she transferred to the main campus. Nancy is married, has 2 children, is active in her church, and still manages a 4.0 GPA. She is here today with her husband, Eliezer Alvarez, and her mother-in-law, Eddie Alvarez. Kayla Espino. Kayla's parents were born in Mexico. When he first came to the United States, her father worked on an apple farm. Kayla graduated from Union High School in Grand Rapids, and she is the first one in the family to attend college. She is currently studying business administration at Grand Rapids Community College and plans to transfer to Davenport or Ferris. She's a full-time student, works part-time, is active in church, and her GPA is 3.956. And I want to know who gave her that A minus. She is here today with her mother, Blanca Santorio, and her sister, Elizabeth Espino.
Thank you. And now from the Grand Rapids Public Schools, I'd like to invite Teresita Cárdenas Long.
I'm delighted to represent Grand Rapids Public Schools. I get to introduce to you Natalie Ramos. Natalie's parents are from Durango, Mexico. She graduated from Rogers High School in 2011. Although her parents did not finish high school, Natalie's brother and sister, along with Natalie, all attend college. She is interested in transferring to Grand Valley State University. Where's the Grand Valley table? Okay. To study imaging sciences. She is active in church and has 2 part-time jobs. Natalie's GPA is 4.0. Natalie is here tonight with her mother, Lucila Ramos. I also have the honor of introducing to you Veronica Rodriguez. Veronica's parents are of Puerto Rican descent from New York. She graduated from Park School and also attended Kent Career Technical Center. She is studying web design, development, and security. Veronica has 3 children, and despite some health challenges, she also carries a GPA of 4.0.
I'd like to invite from Fifth Third Bank, Eric Hendrickson, forward.
Good evening. On behalf of Fifth Third Bank, I'm proud to recognize Suhey Serrano. Suhey and her parents were born in Mexico. She came to the United States when she was 8 years old. She graduated from Union High School in the year 2010. She's currently working on her associate degree in business administration. She's carrying a strong GPA of 4.0. She is here tonight with her mother, Amalia Serrano, and her brother, Juan Serrano.
And from State Farm, please welcome Jim Forster.
On behalf of State Farm, it is my privilege to introduce to you Michael Vitales Lanuza. Michael's mom was born in Guatemala. He was homeschooled and graduated in 2010. He is currently attending Grand Rapids Community College to complete his general education requirements and plans to transfer to Grand Valley State University and major in anthropology with special emphasis in African cultures. He then hopes to continue on to graduate school at the University of Chicago. He attends school full-time, works part-time, and maintains a 3.8 grade point average. He is obviously a very hard-working young man because he was not able to attend this evening because he's in class. So in his place are his sister Vicky, and also here is his grandmother, Vicky Oliveras.
Let's give a round of applause to all our winners tonight. Community and scholarship winners. And Lupe, come over here, dear. Come here. She's so busy. She's always doing something, straightening something out. I believe there's something here for you. I know you hate surprises.
All of these people are here for
you. Yeah, they're all here for you, Lupe.
We'd like to ask all of the Unity Committee members, as well as the Chavez Committee members, if you would please stand across the front of the stage. All Unity Committee members, as well as Chavez Committee members, please come forward.
Come forward.
All right.
Come on.
Just across the front here, please. Thank you.
Hey, Ferris State, you're a Unity. All of the tables in the second row, in the Unity Committee, please come forward. You're in my Unity Committee. Come on, Aquinas, Davenport, Ferris State, you're in the Unity Committee. Please come. Grand Rapids Public Schools, GRCC, Western, Andy Bound. All of you are in the Unity Committee. Western.
Lupe calls. When Lupe calls.
They come, exactly.
We need one more debate.
Thank you very much. You know, I have a special reading I want to share right now with us, and we talk about a special recognition to Mrs. Lupe Ramos Montini, and the Committee to Honor Cesar Chavez, as well as the Unity Committee, including the City of Grand Rapids, the County of Kent, the Hispanic Center of Western Michigan, the West Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Aquinas College, Davenport University, Ferris State University, Grand Rapids Community College, Grand Rapids Public Schools, and Grand Valley State University have united to express our love and appreciation in this proclamation for Mrs. Lupe Ramos Montini. And whereas Mrs. Lupe Ramos Montini was born of Isidro and Mario Ramos in West Laco, Texas, and relocated to Michigan as a migrant worker with her 3 brothers and her 5 sisters. And whereas she excelled as a student and went on to earn a bachelor's degree from Pan American University in Edinburgh, Texas, and a master's degree from Grand Valley State University in Allendale. And whereas she retired from the Grand Rapids Public Schools after 36 years of serving as a teacher, principal, and director of bilingual education, as well as holding positions with the National Education Association, the Michigan Education Association, and the Grand Rapids Educational Association. And whereas she served her community tirelessly and in diverse capacities, such as one of the founders of the Committee to Honor Cesar E. Chavez, the Circle Theater Board, member of the Student Advancement Foundation Board, and a key member of the Stand Up for Rosa Parks Reception Committee. And whereas her community engagement did not end with social service volunteerism, but also included political activism in the Michigan Democratic Party, where she served as the second vice chair in the State Central Committee, the past chair of the Michigan Democratic Hispanic Caucus, the past chair of the Executive Committee and precinct delegate for the Kent County Democratic Party, and a member of the Executive Committee for the 3rd Congressional District and as a Democratic National Convention delegate. And whereas her public contributions have been acknowledged with the 2011 Mayor's Diversity Award, the 2009 Cesar E. Chavez Aguila Award, the 2008 Michigan Education Association Board Special Recognition, the 2005 Baisakhi Outstanding Community Service Award from the Punjabi Cultural Association Society of Michigan, and the 2004 Jordi Sanchez Award from the National Education Association, as well as numerous other awards and acknowledgments. And whereas none of the above highlights of her life accentuate the true value that Ms. Ramos has brought to our community, in that she has been the defender of the weak, the eyes of the lost, the voice of the silent, and the hands of the feeble to more people than we could ever imagine. Let it be clear this day, and this was in March, this 29th day of the month of March in the year 2012, that the above organizations recognize Ms. Lupe Ramos Martini as an exemplary citizen who has dedicated her life to ensuring justice, equity, and peace for all people. We honor her this day and share our praise for her legacy. This proclamation is signed by the committee chair to honor Cesar E. Chavez, co-chairs Deanne Sherwood and Rayanne Booker, the City of Grand Rapids Mayor George Hartwell, Kent County Board of Commissioners Chair Cindy Frost Parrish, the Hispanic Center Chamber President CEO Martha Gonzalez Cortez, the West Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Carlos Sanchez, the Aquinas College President Juan Oliveras, Davenport University President, Davenport University Richard Pappas, Ferris State University President David Eisler, Grand Rapids Community College President Stephen Ender, Grand Rapids Public Schools Superintendent Teresa Weatherall Neal, and Grand Valley State University President Thomas Haas. We honor you.
The flowers are for her too. Thank you. You can take your seats before we get going. Do we want to do the raffle? Last call for, we're doing the raffle right now before the actual closing. You got any raffles here? Okay, I can't pick it because, you know, I'm going to call it. So I have somebody, you want to pick it for me? Close your eyes. Dig in deep. Okay. The winner, oh, that was smart. You put your name tag in. Chris Verberg. Chris, are you here? Okay, you get to take that home. Congratulations. Woohoo! You want to wrap it up? What is this? No sé qué es. Is this your part now? Oh, okay. Breaking news. Eric Picardo, where are you? Eric, come forward. I didn't know about this.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, that's fine. Good evening, everyone. I got the honor to be here tonight, and I created a piece of artwork. It's a portrait of Cesar E. Chávez, and I name it Cosechando el Sueño. It's a symbolism of what exactly Cesar Chavez done as a legacy. Please enjoy. Este es un pequeño brochure de mi trabajo para que lo conserven, ¿no? Muchas gracias. Por favor.
It's beautiful. Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias. Eric is also the artist of the painting there that you're taking, so that's, again, Eric, gracias for your generosity and your great artistic gift you always give to these community events. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Okay, Lupe, are you ready to come back up and wrap up the final of the program?
Let's give our MC a big round of applause for the fine job that she did. Now it's time for active participation, like we say in the classroom, where everybody gets to hold hands and sing the colores. So what we want you to do is please stand up and make a big circle around the perimeter of the room. Tony here is gonna start. Come on, Ferris State. Let's start. This is the song that we sing after all our events. De colores means of colors, so that means everybody's different, but everybody's one. So Renee and Guillermo will lead us in De Colores, and we won't start until everybody is part of the circle.
Gracias a los bandits. You guys are awesome. At this point, before you all sit down, really want to thank you all for coming and let you know that we're ready to dance Latino style. So if you want to hang out for a while. And again, we want to ask that all the recipients, all the award winners, to please come to the stage. We're going to take some pictures. All the award winners and college scholarship recipients, come to the stage. The rest of us can hang out and party Latino style. Thank you everyone for coming.